Okay, decentralized storage is what somebody told me I'm supposed to talk about. Okay, so we'll talk, but I'll tell you what I do first. I used to run advanced technologies for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So that means anything that we do in artificial intelligence, machine learning, high performance computing, blockchain, distributed ledger, and quantum simulation. That used to be my business. And then I launched my business as a separate company as an Oracle partner company. And we still do the same thing. So we are in the attracting advanced technology companies and helping them understand how to work with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And more importantly, how to allow a very large enterprise to lean in and help the company succeed, right? I think whenever you're going to do business with a large enterprise, often startup companies, early stage companies don't ask the right question. The first question is not what infrastructure is right for me. First question is, how can you help me with my business? You're running a much bigger business. You're running a global business. I'm doing the specific thing. I'm 3 months old. How can you help me with my business should be the first question. And most companies don't ask that, right? So we help early stage companies correctly ask those questions and get support from very large enterprises. If you're working with any hyperscaler, if you're on AWS, Microsoft, Google, Oracle, ask that as your first question. How are you going to help me with my business, right? And we help them do that. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about blockchain technologies and blockchain architecture, etc. Some gentleman, I think it was a gentleman from Flux, who said that, unless we go all the way down to the infrastructure layer, we are lying to ourselves. That's absolutely true, right? Think about election systems, and a lot of them on the Constitution requires elections to be run with local control, right? But a large amount of election applications running on AWS, is that local control? What if that tendency goes down just when you're ready to cast your ballot, right? Decentralized infrastructure, decentralized storage is very important. There are some complex problems to solve there. So we are doing two things. First of all, with the GBA, we were introduced to a project in Lancaster, South Carolina, where we are starting to build data center technology for advanced technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, et cetera, for the Indian tribes. The very first time for the Indian tribes to have their own dedicated and sovereign infrastructure, so they can get all the way down to infrastructure. We're starting to do that for the states. So states can have sovereign infrastructure. Decentralization that way is very important. So if the states want to run their election process, their local government processes down the way to the counties. Currently, the federal government is the only one that has their own cloud, right? The Gov Cloud. FedRAMP, everybody in the cloud business knows that. Why not the Indian tribes? Why not states? You should ask that question, right? Aren't we supposed to be a federal system? Why is it broken in infrastructure? Shouldn't be broken in infrastructure, right? So we are fixing that so that these solutions can correctly come down to the infrastructure layer, and storage is one aspect of it. That's what I'm supposed to talk about. Storage is a big aspect of it. As when it comes to distributed ledger technology, it's all about storage or artificial intelligence and machine learning. Federated machine learning is very important. We can't just say that send everything to OpenAI, send everything to Azure. That's like the Borg from Star Trek telling you resistance is futile. You come to me for intelligence, right? That's what they're doing. And it shouldn't be acceptable to anybody. So federated machine learning is very important. And therefore, decentralized storage solutions, if it doesn't go down to the infrastructure level, somebody's selling you a decentralized application, ask them, where are you running? 80% of my application runs on AWS. I'm sorry, you're lying to yourself, you're lying to everybody else. Because they can shut you down, right? So getting down to decentralized infrastructure is very, very important. Had 8 minutes. But tell me if there are any questions. Anyone wants to say, any startup founder over here was less than 1 year in their new job? Anybody here? Startup founder? Yeah. Are you working with a hyperscaler? Okay. But if you are scaling up, if you have a product and we don't do much for napkin stage companies, but if you're in the pre-scale if you have a product working and you're ready to scale, please reach out to us. STEMpractice.ai is my company. We are an Oracle partner, and we help you use the mighty power of a global corporation like that to correctly scale up, right? So that's what we do. Any other questions? Any other comments? Okay, if you want to take one thing from me, any decentralized application you run into, ask them what their infrastructure architecture is. And if they're telling you they're running on cloud, tell them they're not decentralized. Okay? It's not an opinion, it's a fact that that's a lie, right? I'm just saying, if it is a blockchain as a service and it's running on AWS, it's running on 33 distributed regions, maybe, but it's only running on your particular region that you lived in, then how is it a blockchain? How is it a blockchain? I'm not only talking about AWS, IBM, Hyperledger Fabric, Oracle, blockchain as a service, right? For all of them, you should ask the same question. Get down to in the infrastructure layer. If it's not decentralized, I'm sorry, it is not a blockchain service. I would say we have a long way to go. So let's stop lying to ourselves. That's what I would say, right? It's as if they say, oh, we are running on 3 nodes, and then this thing about anchor institutions. We have 3 anchor institutions. I'm sorry. What is the anchor institution? The National Association of Realtors was an anchor institution. Now they've been sued left and right. The Department of Justice wants to shut them down. Suddenly, is it an anchor institution? Anchor institutions disappear. MCI, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, was that an anchor institution? It was a very large telecom company, right? There's no such thing, right? You get down to ask that question about infrastructure. If that doesn't pass the blockchain test, you're not a blockchain solution. That's why we need the programs like what Plux was talking about, where there is a layer that gives you the SLAs that you need and then manages the randomness of the infrastructure below it. It's not a simple problem to solve, but it is the correct way to solve if you need decentralization, right? And you can get the SLAs. You need all of these different protocols and the algorithms running in the platform layer and in the operating system layer, because it's a much more complex thing to do. It's a complex processor scheduling algorithm. That's what it is, right? But if you do that, then you can have decentralized, true decentralized architecture that can be managed in the geofencing of infrastructure addresses. Lots of different ways to manage that. Full encryption, right? Full encryption, irreversible encryption in many ways. Yep. I'm making a very simple point, is that if you go, somebody says that I have 60,000 nodes running and 80% of the 60,000 nodes are running as virtual machines, one single core virtual machines on AWS within 3 regions, I'm sorry, you're not decentralized. Google took down a tenancy by accident and killed a large pension fund company in Australia, right? They just made a mistake, right? And that's because of why? Because it wasn't across multiple regions, Google maybe. But it was a mistake in tenancy that they took it down, right? That is because it was not decentralized down to the infrastructure layer, right? That's all it is. I don't know what your analogy to quantum computing is, but we can talk about that more. But that's my simple point. Thank you very much.